Hey guys, today I'll be showing you how to change the rear struts on a 1997 Buick LeSabre Custom. First off, let's take the wheel cover off. Now that the wheel cover's off, we'll go ahead and just loosen these 5 nuts holding the wheel on, but don't take them off all the way until we jack the car up. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. There's 4. There's 5. Now we're going to go ahead and jack this corner of the car up off the ground. And I went ahead and put a jack stand under the car as well as an added precaution. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the nuts the rest of the way off the wheel. And now I can pull the wheel off. Now we can go ahead and spray down these 2 bolts and nuts with penetrating oil. They're holding the strut on. Now I used a jack to prop up the A-arm so that when I pull the strut out, the coil spring won't pop that A-arm down. This is a very important step. Alright, now we'll go ahead and loosen those 2 nuts that we just sprayed. I'm using a 15/16 inch wrench on that side and a 7/8 inch socket with a breaker bar on this side and a 4-inch extension. I'll go ahead and break the other one loose now. Here's kind of a view of the other side. Now I'll go ahead and completely take these bolts out. Now to finish off the top one. Might have to drive the bolt out. I'll go ahead and knock this top bolt out the rest of the way. I'll actually use the ratchet and kind of unscrew it the rest of the way. Do just a little bit of last pounding. And there we go. Here are what the bolts and nuts look like that we just took out. They're both identical, so you don't have to worry. Alright, now the bottom part of the strut is free. We'll go ahead and go into the back to get the top part. Alright, now it's time to go ahead and take the back seat out. First off, I'm going to take the bottom part out. It kind of pushes back and unlatches so that it can come up. There's a latch kind of underneath here and underneath here. So I'm going to kind of push back this way on the front of the seat and lift up to unlatch it. And the same thing over here. There, now the bottom part can be taken out. Alright, now there are 4 nuts that hold the back part of the back seat on. There are 2 holding the seat belt stuff on down here. They're 18mm nuts, and then 2 nuts on the outside take about an inch socket. So I'm going to go ahead and take these 4 nuts off so that I can get the back seat off. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. Go ahead and pull these off. And there's number 4. Now I can pull these off. And this is what the 2 inside and 2 outside nuts look like. Alright, now to get the back part of the back seat out, just lift up. pull out. And get the seat belts out of the way. And you can pull it out. So now that you took the back seat out, there are two nuts back here that you'll have to take off. One back here and one underneath this black gummy patch right there. And they're both 15 millimeters. We're going to go ahead and take those off, and that'll let the strut drop down. There's one. And there, the strut dropped down. There's the second nut. Now we can go ahead and pull the old strut out. I'm going to compress it down, turn it off to the side. Here's a quick look at the old strut. You can tell it's just crying for help. Actually, the strut itself isn't bad. It was actually the strut mount that was the problem on this one. What happened is the middle of the strut mount just completely ripped out around this rubber. The entire strut, rod and all, was shooting up and down through the middle of this strut mount. And I'll go ahead and show you a video of what it looked like. Alright, here's a side-by-side comparison of the old strut compared to the new strut. On this one, the strut mount was actually the problem. So now that we've checked to make sure that we have the right replacement strut, we're going to go ahead and install it. Go ahead and clean up the area where the new strut will mount before you mount it, so that way it's easier to take off next time. Clean out the bolt holes as best you can. Now this right here is the lower ball joint. If it makes a squeaking sound like this, then it probably needs replaced as well. Now I'll go ahead and stuff the new strut back into that hole that leads to the back seat. And get the bolts lined up with the holes. I went ahead and started that first nut towards the inside. Then I'll go ahead and cock the strut sideways and get the other bolt up through the hole. And start that nut. So now that I got everything lined up on the new strut, I can go ahead and start putting the bolts in. Be sure to get both bolts through the sway bar bracket as well. You also want to put on some anti-seize on the bolt threads before you put them in, so next time it'll be easier to take out. Now that I have both bolts through the bottom of this strut, I can go ahead and tighten these nuts to the top of the strut. And go ahead and put that black sticky patch over the one hole if you'd like. And also the cover over the other hole if you still have it. Now that I got both bolts through the holes, I can go ahead and put the nuts on and tighten them up. Now that both of the bolts on the bottom of the strut are tight and both bolts at the top of the strut are tight, you can go ahead and put the wheel on and snug up the nuts. Now that the 5 nuts are tied on the wheel, I can go ahead and jack the car up a little bit, pull the jack stand out and drop the car back down and tighten up the lug nuts. Now that the 5 lug nuts are tight, we can go ahead and put the wheel cover on. Be sure to line up the slot in the wheel cover with the valve stem on the wheel. There, now we're done on this side. We can go ahead and change the strut on the other side because you always want to change the struts in pairs. Alright, now it's time to throw the back seat back in. I'm going to put the back part of the back seat in first. This part. I already went ahead and moved the seat belts kind of out of the way so that they won't be behind the seat after I put it in. So when I put this back part in, I'm going to make sure to get this loop up down through this slot, and then there's also 2 other metal loops on either side of the back part that go over a kind of a hook back here. So I'll make sure to line that up, and I'll also make sure to put the bottom loops on that back seat over those heads. Now there's these 4 metal loops down here that should be lined up with 4 studs. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the seatbelt latches on the middle 2 studs. And this seatbelt goes on the passenger side. And I'll use a 18mm socket. For the other 2 latches. Now for the 2, they go on the outside 2 studs. Go ahead and put those on. And now for the bottom part of the back seat. Now the bottom part of the back seat has 2 metal rods that'll clip into these 2 slots. I'll go ahead and put those in. I'll also kind of try to feed the seat belts up through as I go. There's one side. And there's the other side. I'll make sure that the seat belts are back through. And that is it. We are done fixing the struts. Thanks for watching.